Yeah, my name is Nick Lefebvre. I work at Founders Factory. So at Founders Factory, we're building 60 new tech startups from scratch over the next couple of years. And we're also accelerating another 150 tech startups as well who already exist in the market. So we want to be basically the best place for founders to go to build their companies. And AI is a really big theme for us, so that's kind of really important, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But before that, I was working at IBM Watson, commercializing some of their research and development AI APIs. So I've got kind of the corporate background of how to build AI projects, but also the startup founder's perspective as well. So that's kind of where the genesis of this talk is going to come from today. So how can you scale AI from fantastic research and turn that into a really big business? So fantastic. I need the clicker. So it's going to be a very high-level overview, but many of you will know, but what is AI? So artificial intelligence is a subdiscipline in computer science, really looking at creating computer systems that can replicate elements of what was previously only human cognition, so things that we can do and we can think about. So I like my example of the Mr. Potato Head over here. So you can break down AI into very simple, different applications. So you can take the eyes up there. You can have computer vision systems, so identifying objects and how they relate to each other. And you see these in things like driverless cars. You can take the mouth, so turning computer data into speech. And you take the ears, so turning people's speech into words that can then be processed by computers, much like you'll use in your Alexas and your Siris. There's a whole lot of other things kind of in there, and you can start to reason and so on. But you can build these individual building blocks together to create a full Mr. Potato Head, or a complex system that can create kind of some magical results and solve problems that were previously unsolvable. So AI is a huge topic these days, and everyone's talking about it. So since, I guess, the 50s where the term was coined, we've seen kind of ups and downs, peaks and troughs. But over the past 6 years or so, we've seen a really big growth in AI technologies and the commercialization of those. A couple of reasons, or three reasons. There's been a real growth in the computer power available. So we can now do things faster than ever before and run these algorithms like never before. So there's, kind of GPUs, which now kind of speed up that process. We've now moved to cloud, so good reference to the previous talk. So cloud now lets us manage big data, and data is the fuel of artificial intelligence. So we can now gather so much more data, but also process it like never before. And finally, we've kind of open sourced and made available platforms through which you can start developing and building AI systems on top of. So you've got TensorFlow, you've got Facebook with a fantastic building block platforms for building companies, and AWS, of course, for example. So you've got these big trends in the past kind of 4 or 5 years that are really driving AI businesses, or the ability to build AI businesses. But I like this graph here. Since 2011, we've seen kind of a tenfold increase in the number of AI businesses being funded. And then the 2011 point is interesting because that's kind of where my history comes from. So we're seeing a lot of big technology giants from kind of 2011 onwards, really make that move from research AI through to commercialized AI. So in 2007, a skunkworks team in IBM were building up basically a question-answering system that could basically answer any question on the show Jeopardy. In 2011, they won, they beat the world champion. AlphaGo, so Google's DeepMind beat the reigning champion of Go in 2015. And after Microsoft's acquisition of Minecraft, they set up a project called Project Malmo, which was basically putting AI inside this video game environment so it could learn and train. Since then, these companies have all become businesses really based around artificial intelligence. So IBM is now a cognitive AI and cloud company. Google has moved from a mobile-first way of working to an AI-first way of working. And Microsoft is infusing artificial intelligence in every product that it builds. So this journey from research technology and small skunkworks projects through to some of the biggest businesses in the world being based around or driving money through their business through artificial intelligence has been a long journey and difficult one. But interestingly enough, a lot of the challenges and the learnings from these big companies apply to AI businesses and founders building companies today. So that's kind of what I'm going to take you through now, some of those learnings. So how do you start thinking about building an AI business or building an AI business division inside your company? So always start with the problem. And it sounds very familiar, but great research doesn't necessarily always mean a great business. So you've got to start thinking about what that problem is and start thinking around, am I solving a problem or am I finding a technology and hunting for a solution to go and solve with it? So you take the example of Watson to begin with. They built a fantastic engine that could play a game show. That's a very different system than one that can be trained and taught to answer questions in a call center, for example. Same with moving pieces around a board and beating a board game. That's a very different system for answering questions for doctors in the NHS. So you've got to really, not every company has the ability to build something and then transfer and work out what the solution should be for a commercialized product. So really start with that problem you're solving and then build something around that. And I think a really good idea is working very early with commercial partners who have real problems that you can start to co-build the technology with and build the IP yourself. So this gives me a good example of the famous futurist, Dr. Ian Malcolm, who you may have seen from Jurassic Park. He talks around the scientists are so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should. So if you're thinking about AI, always think if you should, not if you could. Next is make sure AI is the right tool to solve the problem. So there's a whole load of different tool sets you can use to solve the problems that you find. And AI is just one of them. And we don't want to just jump on the bandwagon because it's the hot topic right now. There's a couple of famous examples of people who help you frame what is an AI solvable problem. And so the famous computer scientist and entrepreneur Andrew Ng said, if a typical person can do a mental task in less than a minute, that task can be automated either now or in the very near future. A little bit of a tongue-in-cheek way of framing it. Gary Marcus, who is the AI advisor at Uber, has said a little more detail on this. If you can do that task in less than a minute, but also have ample amounts of relevant data, you have a fighting chance as long as you can train it correctly to solve that problem with AI. There's a couple of other kind of more detailed points I think could also be useful there in thinking around, is a problem AI solvable? So first of all, I like to think, is this problem repeatable? So does this problem apply to a single person many times over, or to many people who have the same kind of problem set? Is the problem a clearly defined process? So if you think about solving this issue, can you very clearly map out each step involved in taking that process to that solution? If you can clearly map it out, you can clearly build a training set which you can train an AI on. Very important. Next, I'm going to jump to 4. Is there lots of data around this problem space? So as I said before, AI is fueled by data, but you need very specific data to help you train an AI system on solving that problem. So if you have a problem in an area with a lot of data, or you can generate a lot of data, that's a really helpful start. And finally, time-consuming. This is one kind of a finger-in-the-air approach, thinking, is this a really good problem to solve with AI? So is this a problem if I had a system that could do what I do, but at a much bigger scale and much quicker, it could be solved far more efficiently? And that's a good thinking methodology around, is this a good AI solvable problem? Next, prove it with data. Back to this data point. It's going to be a recurring point of the talk. So data is often considered or spoken around as the new oil in the information age. And as with any highly sought-after resource, it's expensive and hard to come by. So as a business, how can you prove that you've got the right problem and right solution to that problem with data at the easiest possible way? So that working with corporate partners, potentially, who have data sets you can work with to build that AI solution is one good starting point. But you can also map out the data available in your organization, work out where you have some fantastic proprietary data sets that no one else has, and think about if those are the best way of solving that problem. So look at your historic data, stuff in your CRM systems. Look at your live data, stuff coming through your sales channels. Look at internal, external data that you're generating. Maybe see where you have that groupings and where you have that real advantage. Also think about where your IP should lie. So where is your unique place in solving this problem? So there are a lot of open source systems and open source repositories available to start training and creating solutions in artificial intelligence. But if you're looking at this very particular problem, a lot of it may have been able to have been done before with stuff off the shelf. If you're building a business, or if you're building a business unit inside your business, think about which part to you is proprietary that's really driving the value. The rest of it, perhaps use stuff that's already available. But think about that stuff that is really making you unique as a business, that data set, that machine learning model you're building, and then really focus on that and try and use the rest that's out there already. So really think about what your core IP is. Next, it is really key to position yourself very carefully. So artificial intelligence, the term has been around for hundreds of years. We've had science fiction thinking around how an artificial general intelligence will interact with humans and so on. So people have this framing of what AI is, and that's actually a really mixed bag when thinking about how to take this to market. A lot of customers will already know what you do before you even say what you do, and often it'll be a misinterpretation. So around half of all people globally either don't know what artificial intelligence is or have a vague idea, and a vague idea is often more dangerous than having a good idea. So my emojis are broken here a little bit, but what I find is a good way of thinking about this is you have, okay, completely broken. On the x-axis here, you can have something that's kind of indifference through to amazement. So where do you position your artificial intelligence? Often people say AI is going to change the world, disrupt this industry, disrupt that industry. But often when you start with artificial intelligence, you're training it on basic data sets and it improves over time. So it'll start off pretty bad and probably get to that amazing. But if you set your expectations too high at the beginning, people will be disappointed and they'll stop using your products and your services very early on. So frame it as a learning system that's going to start pretty bad but get pretty good. The next one is from the devilish emoji through to the halo emoji. So is this a good thing or a bad thing? And I guess this is around framing this whole question around AI in terms of an enabler or a tool set to be used by people or taking people's jobs. Most AI systems are not going to be good enough to begin with to take people's jobs. It should probably be framed as a tool set you can use to help you work faster, more efficiently, work better, and have a human in the loop. And that kind of, gets around any of the misconceptions and the pre-built, media stories and so on. This is here to replace people. This can be here to empower people. So think about how you frame that when discussing it. And I think that should set you in a nice little sweet spot in the middle somewhere to start off with your business. And so those are some very, very high-level ways of positioning and thinking around AI, but I'd love to get into more details with some of you afterwards. But one other piece about this is it's a super, super interesting space for building a business. So opportunity always comes when the rules change or when regulation changes, and AI is no different. So it's a super fascinating space because problems that couldn't be solved now can be solved. So there's a whole new problem space to explore as an entrepreneur. But also, the big players in the industry no longer may have the advantage. It could be someone new who comes in there with a proprietary data set, with something new, with some great new model to approach that the big players can't actually match. So anyone, this is an open space and a greenfield site for people to get really excited and start building some fantastic businesses. So I think it's a great opportunity and very exciting. So I'd love to talk to you more afterwards. Thank you very much.
Yes, thanks a lot, Nick.
Here we go.
Yes, we still have a couple of minutes for questions. So are there questions in the audience? Just raise your hand. And if not, I'll start and take over. So could you give us some examples of projects that happened from large companies approaching the Founders Factory, and how did you bring together, like on the one hand, the researchers you have, for example, or you acquire from the university, and the large companies?
Yeah, absolutely. So we like to build our own companies, but look and take advantage of different proprietary data sets that are available to us. So one project we're looking very closely at the moment is how we can take, legal contracts and start to think about how those can be mined for fantastic data that we can start building some artificial intelligence systems on. We've also been looking at recruiting, so building profiles of people that exist externally, across many different data sets like LinkedIn, like Crunchbase, and then creating a proprietary data set that we work with together and building a profile around people that you can then see interlinks between them and work that for recruiting. So basically looking at where you can find fantastic data sets and then a problem space that maybe is an old industry that hasn't really utilized great data to build something really cool and really new.
And you just mentioned regulations for AI. Is that something where you take a stance as well? Some say, well, let's just do it. Others, like Elon Musk, say that we need regulations, otherwise we're doomed. Is that something where the Founders Factory has a certain look on?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess you've got to there's a lot of regulation coming in with the EU and making sure that data is used correctly, and that's really important. So I think that we want to basically be building companies that fall within that, but also be helping. This is a very nascent new technology space, and I think that regulation hasn't always caught up. So we're definitely open to those conversations, and we kind of enjoy discussing these with the kind of the industry leaders who can help push these right ideas forward.
Let's have a look in the audience. Are there questions in the meanwhile? Then just raise your hand. We'll come to you with a microphone. We still have a couple of minutes. Just ask a question, everything you wanted to know about artificial intelligence, or about London, that is. He's from London.
Yep.
With the Founders Factory. Yes. No? Well, in that case, we'll pass on to the next speaker.
Fantastic.
Thanks.